What if I told you that there was only one way to make a garden? There's only one seed that you could choose from. There is only one type of soil that you could choose from. That's it. Thankfully, there's not just one way to garden. There's a million different ways to garden, and that's part of what makes it so fun. If you're obsessed with sunflowers, just plant sunflowers. If you want to create a 1,000 acre giant crazy vegetable farm, well, you'd be a farmer, but that's okay. You can do that. That's the point. There are so many different ways to garden, so many different paths to choose from. I think for some people that can be a really attractive feature. That can be something that's really enticing to get into growing and starting to garden. It can be very individualistic, and some people really like that. For other people, that's a bit scary. How are you supposed to know what to do when everybody's garden is different? Someone will tell you one thing, and then another person will tell you the complete opposite. That's one of the bigger challenges as a beginner gardener, is that there's so much information out there, and that gap of knowledge there is really for you to fill. That comes from your own experience. That comes from you taking the time to garden for yourself and see what works for you and see what doesn't, to try and fail. A lot of failing comes with that. I think for most of my life, gardening has been a fairly solitary activity. It's something that I can find peace in when I'm just by myself. But for a lot of people, gardening and growing can be a really collaborative experience. A good example of that is this. You watch this channel. You want to be here. You want to be there when someone else is gardening. You want to learn about it. You want to share in that experience. And I do too, obviously. I'm making these videos to put on here. So I do think there is a community-based and collaborative part of gardening. It's just not something that I have a lot of experience in until now. And I gotta say, I kind of like it. And I really like incorporating my friends into my gardening. I love when they ask me questions about it. I love when a friend can come over and just, sit in the garden as we weed, or as I, plant new plants or take plants out. As much joy as I find in being in the garden by myself, I also find a lot of happiness in bringing other people into that. When I started this garden at my apartment, I sectioned off a little piece of it to be used by one of my friends who lives nearby. He actually was the one who grew the really successful cherry tomato plant and a bunch of strawberry plants as well. But recently, as the seasons changed, he's wanted to switch things up a little bit, so he's decided to actually remove the cherry tomato plant and the strawberry plants. Sad day. I really love those plants, but of course I'm really excited to see some new plants in there, to see what successes he can have with some new stuff. So he's talked about growing some spinach from seed. So after we take out those plants, we're going to plant some spinach in their place. Do you have the seeds? How long does it take to grow?
It takes
From seed?
from seed 7 weeks.
Okay.
What?
Just cut that off.
This whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe one more.
Nice. To me, it's always sad when I have to remove a plant. Sometimes that could be for health reasons. Sometimes maybe the plant isn't doing so well. But other times, like this one, the plant is doing great. This cherry tomato plant is actually the best producing plant in the whole garden. So it feels even worse removing it. After pruning back the tomato plant a bit, I had the thought that maybe I could transplant the main body of the tomato plant into my section of the garden. I do have a feeling, though, that since the plant is so big, the stress caused by transplanting it probably won't do it that many favors, and I'm not super optimistic for its long-term growth. I thought about propagating some cuttings off of this tomato plant, but in thinking, especially since I have recently gotten these sun gold tomatoes in my garden, I would rather just see if I can transplant the main body of this tomato plant, and if it doesn't work out, then I'll focus all my efforts onto my new tomato plants. And now come the spinach seeds. My friend and I were reading the seed packet, and it was really recommending that you just start the seeds outdoors. I don't know if this is common among other leafy greens. I know I've seen this on seed packets for herbs before as well, but they really do recommend just starting outside, direct sowing into the ground, because transplanting might cause a lot of stress and in some cases might cause it to bolt early. So for that reason, my friend decided to direct sow into the ground. So it's been a little bit over a week now, and the spinach seeds that I started with my friend in the garden, the ones that we direct sowed, haven't grown. So we planted some more thinking that maybe the soil temperature was too cold, maybe the soil dried out while we were trying to germinate them, and again, nothing. I know it said it really wasn't recommended to start indoors, but I really don't see any alternative here. Just for germination purposes, maybe I could start some of the spinach seeds and get them off to a strong start and then see what happens with a transplant, which is fine by me because that means more seed starting. I love seed starting. One of the things that I'm most excited about this year is cilantro. I eat so much cilantro. I have always wanted to grow my own. I think that would be so cool to go out into the garden and just pick cilantro that I could have with dinner every other night. But the problem is I'll need a lot of it. I got some cilantro seeds and it says that you're supposed to avoid starting it indoors. It says it's best if it's directly sown. So I'm gonna try and hopefully plant at least 5 or 6 cilantro plants. I don't really know how much cilantro one plant can give you, but I would rather just overshoot and have too much cilantro than wish that I had grown a couple more plants. Forgot to water the garden. There are actually quite a few bees buzzing around. The tree in front of my apartment has flowers on it. I'm not exactly sure what type of tree this is, but it's really beautiful. This is the first time I'm seeing it flowering because I haven't lived here that long. Maybe I can look it up and see because I really do like this tree. Pollinators are always a good thing. I know my tomatoes will appreciate it, especially. But one thing that I've noticed recently that my garden is lacking is a space for pollinators. I think it can get really easy to get caught up in just this grow, grow, grow mentality where it's food focused, and I've definitely been stuck in that for a while, but I feel like I haven't paid close enough attention to flowers and what those can do for the garden ecology. I would stay tuned for a video very soon where I explore flowers and everything to do with flowers and how to integrate that into the garden that I have now. If I were to summarize this week, it would be that I have a lot of new projects. You know, we just started a bunch of seeds that I have to make sure that they germinate. I'm gonna make sure this time. We have some new plants in the garden that I really want to tend to. But yeah, overall, I think there are a lot of exciting future improvements to the garden. And I'm excited to start on those projects and really problem solve and piece together a solution that works for me. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this video made your day a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more calm, and I hope to see you in the next one.